A very warm welcome to one and all present here today. I, Mehek Rathi, Honorary Director of Knowledge Teas, welcome you all to this international conference on human rights and gender justice. Gender equality is at the very heart of human rights, and we at this conference will witness over 50 presentations on various aspects pertaining to human rights and gender justice. To begin with the conference, I would like to call upon Dr. Mayank Kapela, our convener for the conference, to give the welcome address. मयंक सर, आप ईयरफोन्स हटा के ट्राई कर.
महक, आपको तो कुछ नहीं, क्या सिंबल आ रहा है वो क्या है हर एक के
सर वो स्पॉटलाइट हुए हुए हैं लोग, जैसे आपके नाम के आगे जी. अच्छा, ये रिकॉर्डिंग का सिंबल है. मयंक सर, कैन यू हियर अस?
Mayank sir, you are muted. Mayank, can you request Mayank sir to unmute?
Sir, he is on unmute only.
No, mute है अभी.
अभी mute.
अभी mute.
Sir is rejoining. Then Nitish sir, please give the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Nitish Kumar on behalf of Knowledge Teas, and I'm also the founder of Knowledge Teas. But nowadays, it's been taken care by Mehek, and sometimes I'm used as filler. So I'm really sorry if I miss out some important names who are very important for this particular conference. We are having this conference on 11th International Conference on Human Rights and Gender Justice. We did almost 8 to 9 of these conferences in a physical mode and 3 of them in a online mode because of the pandemic. I welcome my professor, Dr. Manoj Kumar Sinha, because of whom this knowledge is me as a professor is possible. I also welcome Justice Sir with us. I also welcome the Swati ma'am, Mayank Kapela, who are convener and co-convener for this particular conference. The basic idea how we started into these human rights conferences and gender justice programs is by Mehek. When Mehek was in first year, she started a campaign called Breaking Stereotypes. So, and with her 3 classmates, I was her professor that time, way back in 2013. So she started a campaign which reached almost 15 million people around the globe. So this campaign is supported by people from Bangladesh, Nepal, Germany, Romania, Italy, Spain, and majorly these are the students who collaborated and who have shared their images and their quotes and their messages around the globe on gender justice. From that, we have started conducting workshops on good touch, bad touch, cyber awareness, sexual harassment at workplace. And from there, in 2014, we have our first human rights conference on human rights and gender justice in collaboration with the NGO called Katkatha, which works for education of children of commercial sex workers in GB Road. So we started with it. It was our first conference. And then after that, we have partnered with many organizations in India and abroad. And we have seen this journey where more and more number of students and faculties have actually contacted us, have conducted events. We have conducted around 450 awareness programs in last 5 to 6 years. So this is one thing which I say, that how these conferences are important, that we are able to share our knowledge, information on human rights to students and faculty members, and then they join us in the journey of protecting human rights at a larger scale. When we are talking in terms of human rights issues, especially with gender, let me talk especially in terms of women. No doubt we can talk about third gender, but I'll restrict my speech, this welcome address, especially towards women. We have seen the number of cases related to sexual assault of women, sexual harassment have always been on rise. Not because there are more number of cases, but maybe there are more number of, or the more people are aware about their rights and duties. They're more aware when it is infringed, and they are actually filing complaints and taking actions. So somehow, as a part of the society, knowledge STs, different NGOs, judiciary, academia, all work together to make people realize these rights. So first step is awareness. So you become aware of your rights when you're talking in terms of, let's take especially of women rights. What are the major problems that Indian women face nowadays? Earlier, they used to face certain kind of workplace discrimination or workplace harassment. So a sexual harassment act is there, which is taking care of it. Certain problem was there in terms of equal pay, maternity benefit. The maternity benefit act was there. I'm not saying that the acts is there and they're working perfectly and there is no violations, but we have a system in place. If your rights are violated, you know which law it is and where to approach. We have constitutional courts, we have quasi-judicial body like National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission, National Commission for Women, National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribe, National Commission for Minorities, National Commission for OBC, and we also have option of our criminal justice mechanism system where we can file complaints to protect gender rights. I have done my PhD on a topic called bride trafficking in Haryana. Basically, I issue a subset of a human trafficking where women from poverty-stricken areas are being sold in Haryana as wives. I have seen what kind of life they stay. It's almost, I can say, similar situation like slavery and servitude. But still, I'm not saying that legal system is not there, but they don't have information, they don't know their right, and furthermore, they are so much complicit in the life they are that they don't want to come out and file a complaint. So whenever we are talking in terms of gender justice, I think that the first requirement is to aware, and then second, that they should approach. If your rights are violated, if gender rights are violated, women rights are violated, then you have to approach. If you're not approaching, you're sleeping over your rights, then no system can provide your rights to you. So with this, I thank everyone in this meeting today, and heartfelt thanks to my professor, Dr. Manoj Kumar Sinha. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And I apologize that I could not introduce you properly. But yes, now I would like to invite Dr. Mayank Kapala, our convener for the conference, to invite the chief guest for the day.
Distinguished guests, delegates, and participants, I feel honored and privileged to get an opportunity to extend my warm wishes and welcome you all on this significant occasion. I, on behalf of Knowledge Trees and the entire organizing team, welcome you all to the 11th International Conference on Human Rights and Gender Justice. It gives me tremendous contentment to be presenting the welcome address amongst the most esteemed personality of the legal fraternity. I want to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Mr. Justice Sandeep Kumar for accepting the invitation and grace the inaugural ceremony as the chief guest for this conference. Sir has a rich experience of over 3 decades at the bar before being appointed as judge at High Court of Patna, and has always been passionate towards encouraging young professionals. We welcome you, sir. We also welcome our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar Sinha, Director, Indian Law Institute, who is known for his extensive research in the field of international law, human rights, and humanitarian and refugee laws. Sir, we wish to express our gratitude for gracing this occasion. Dear friends, we also have today with us our most endearing Dr. Nitish Kumar Upadhyay, who, besides being a faculty at Galgotia University, is also the co-founder of Knowledge Trees and research advisor at South Ural State Law University, Russia. We welcome you, sir. I also welcome all the resource persons, faculty colleagues, paper presenters, and the participants from various parts of country and abroad for their keenness and interest in participating in this event. Each topic for discussion and deliberation for today's conference was chosen keeping in mind the contemporary issues and challenges faced during the recent times. And it becomes more vital today as we speak, when the world is almost on the verge of facing the Third World War and the humanitarian crisis situation in Ukraine. I sincerely hope that today's event would be a great learning experience for all of us. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite our chief guest for the day, Honorable Justice Sandeep Kumar, to say a few words. I welcome you, sir. I think Mank sir, he's logged out.
He'll be joining, so I think we should continue with, we can request Manoj sir.
Right.
All right. I think I start like, Mac, and I appreciate no introduction is very good introduction. So like, we have to stop that introduction. Many times I have noticed introduction becomes bigger than the speech of the speaker. So we have to avoid introduction and kindly allow me to continue. Respected Honorable Justice Sandeep Kumar Sahi ji, Judge, Patna High Court, Dr. Mank Kapila, Dr. Nitish Kumar Upadhyay, Mehak Rathi, Swati Kausal, and all like young colleagues, teachers, and friends. It's always a distinct pleasure for me personally whenever I receive a call from Nitish or Mehak to be part of any activities they undertake. Like they organizing webinars, conferences, workshop, and I ensure that I be there whenever I receive, and because they take a lot of initiative and a lot of changes they have brought, both Nitish and Mehak. So Nitish almost a decade or more, I know Nitish from the college day, and Mehak subsequently, and I see. So you can identify a person how. So most important thing when we start an activities at a very young age, one has to find out the sustainability, and that I find in both of you. What you started, you have not discontinued. After 4 or 5 years, things keep on changing and you want to hand over somebody else. But what you have taken as a mission, both of you have taken a mission and bringing a lot of law students, teachers together and allowing all of us to share our ideas on a particular theme, a particular topics, and which gives young scholars to understand and also to follow the development. And in this connection, today we are here on a very important topic, which is on the international human rights and gender rights. That is the human rights and gender rights. But today is a time where we have to look into the human rights and gender rights in a different perspective. And why I'm saying, because it's a current crisis which was there almost for last 2-3 months. We know that things are going to happen, where our president of the Russia was very honest. He always said, I'm going to attack, and he did. So NATO and all the diplomacy. So in one hand, he was very much clear. So at least we must appreciate his honesty. I'm going to teach Ukraine a lesson. So whatever so fallout we'll discuss later on. But it's a failure of the international community. That is the reason. A person who has been saying who has made his intention clear to the world, and world believed in the diplomacy, and diplomacy did not work out. And then he so a dictator or a military ruler, autocratic form of government, all are very danger to the human rights and gender rights worldwide. And we have seen that First World War and Second World War and Third World War, which may or may not happen, but we see that the reason. So major threat to the human rights, major threat to the gender rights, major threat to the democracy is the autocratic rulers. So world has to fight about the establishing the liberal democracy, where people's participation. It seems like the country which has some kind of a democratic form of a government, but it's very difficult. A person continue for 30 years, 40 years, and then keep on nominating, renominating himself. So they modify the constitution which suits their interest. So what we see, that a country has a constitution has a bill of rights, but there is no principle of constitutionalism. There is no limit. So without a country can a nation can be a dictatorial nation with a constitution, without, because they don't have a constitutionalism. There is no separation of power. There is no so entire power is vested on one hand, and that is the present crisis. So major threat to the human rights and gender rights today, we see the form of a government. So we have to focus. It's not discussion, and even uh, uh, the inabilities of the world leaders, including the Secretary General of the United Nations, inabilities or failure he himself confessed just a day before yesterday. It's the saddest moment of his life, his tenure as a Secretary General, what he is witnessing. So saddest moment. He could not do anything. We say sometimes United Nations, what I see personally, and I call it useless nation. So it's not the United Nation. It's a nation, it's a useless. So the term is more a job oriented, everybody works. But the motive, they are not working for the three pillars for the which United Nations is established: maintaining of international peace, development, and human rights. So what they are doing, they are employee of useless nation as international, and people feel, okay, I'm under Secretary General, I'm under representing the country, but they are not working for the objective for the institution is there. If you create a temple or masjid or anything, the persons who are there, he has to perform a specific task. Instead of performing that task, if they say, I'll come in the morning 10 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I go back and I say, I'm Pandit of that mandir or masjid or Mulbi of that. So he's not doing that. The same thing which United Nations as an institution is become UN, let it be there, but a useless nation where employment generating. It's like international office, international employment. So everybody works there and they have a family. They have, so those persons would not work. The persons who have a commitment to work for the objective of the institution which has created. League of Nations failed. United Nations has become UN to the United to the useless. And then we'll see the fourth nation what will come. So institution has not been a successful. What it says, in the chapter 6 of the United Nations. So we have to understand human rights on that context. So I'm just attacking on the one institution, and then another institution, which is also in the field of human rights for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in 1993. It's a secretariat which is headed by the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and that person has a responsibility for promotion and protection of human rights worldwide, whether you are party of treaty bodies human rights, whether you're party of the United Nations Charter or whatever, but they have a mandate to regulate, they have to mandate to supervise, and they are also helpless, they can't do much because they don't have anything to support and strength which can enforce their decision. So in lack of enforcement mechanism in the other bodies, there is no lack of enforcement mechanism under the United Nations. United Nations has a mechanism under Chapter 7 which has been used many occasions, can be invoked in this case also. There is a possibility of using Chapter 7, but that has been blocked because perpetrators or violator of human rights is the president of the United Nations Security Council. Out of this, Russia is at this particular juncture, is the president. So president is preside over the meeting, and president has a veto power. So that is the reason the Security Council could not function, could not pass any resolution, though everybody condemned, everybody said You may veto, like what American diplomat had in the United Nations Security Council said, you may veto the Security Council resolution, but you can't veto the spirit of the members of the United Nations. You can't veto of the women, of the rights of the women in the Ukraine. You can't veto the Ukraine. So they're say you can veto a resolution, but you can't veto sovereignty of a state and other things. So you see the difficulties in the implementation of the human rights is there. And the another, if a gender perspective, we talk about the gender equality. Nitish has already started with gender equality, and gender equality to end the inequality or discrimination. We have a specific convention also, convention on elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Principle of non-discrimination is very fundamental. There are two principles. So you don't need to go for the rights. You don't need to go for the rights. What are the rights I have? What are the major pillar for the human rights promotion? The major pillar of the human rights promotion is not identification of the rights. The pillars are principle of non-discrimination, and second, equality before the law or equal protection of law, like Article 14 and Article 15, which in the Indian Constitution context, if you look into. So principle, you don't go for the Article 19 or 20 and 20 or 21 you talk about. You talk about the importance of 14. So if if arbitrariness or discriminatory, arbitrariness and discrimination is the threat to the human rights, wherever is there. So non-discrimination is very fundamental principle, and that is the reason it has got a due recognition in Bill of Rights, constitutional rights, on any human rights, or even the refugee humanitarian law. Principle of non-discrimination has been duly recognized in all places. So that becomes non-discrimination. So that addresses gender equality. No gender equality in the time of conflict. What we have, I have little bit more, little interest, and I believe all you have interest. It's not I have some special interest. So I keep on watching for 2 to 3 hours in the day in the Al Jazeera and BBC, particularly BBC and others. And that also shaped our thinking. We have to now you see the Poland, Romania, and Slovakia, and Hungary, these three, Romania, Poland, they are very close to the Ukraine. They open their border. Thousands of people are moving. Who are moving? Women are going. Young children, 35 years old women with 3 children, they are going. So government also allowing, and they are welcome. Here we have a crisis in 2015 in Syria. So migrants will become a big issue. Nobody was ready to accommodate. But here, Poland government, Romanian government, and even Indian students have crossed the international border easily by carrying the flag. They said they was carrying the Indian flag without any visa. They crossed the international border also. So what we see that protection of refugee, protection of migration, or migrant people are very easy. So by looking into this present crisis, there is no issue. UNHCR is not saying anything, or no NGOs, because it's facilitated by the receiving state. Receiving state are welcoming. They say, these. So if there is a belief, what I understand, there is a belief that these people will go back. They will not become a permanent population of Poland. They will not become a permanent population of Romania or Hungary or Slovakia, because they are here because they are in distress. They are in the trouble. So we have to save women and children, and even all age group. There's nothing restriction, but men are staying back. They are coming to the border. They say goodbye to the family members. They return because they want to fight. So they are returning back. That's the emotional scene what we see, that gender rights. So women, just to say women are crossing the international border. But you see the movement of the human being is very smooth. A large number of people, more than the Syria, is moving from the Ukraine, but it's a very smooth, because host states have a belief. And in host states, just yesterday also I saw, in many cases, they family members, they don't have passport or something. So even birth certificate, school certificate is the ground to allow. So documentation or no documentation, they are crossing the internal. So refugee is not. So what I see, refugees can be handled more effectively if it depends upon the, if both countries are economically strong. The second, cultural commonality, practices are common, regional affiliations. So regional affiliations. So there is no need of like, they are not asking any help from the UNHCR. They are not asking any help from the European Union. If two sovereign states, three sovereign states, they are working together. So entire understanding of the refugees, we have to look into on that particular dimension also. How refugees, like in same crisis, more than the bad crisis, like I think serious crisis, but people movement is not affected at all. In fact, encouraged, and they say, we are going to take care of everybody, whatever the numbers will, like, so some kind of common brotherhood, respect for each other, human rights. It's not confined to a territory. It's like on a global or regional level. It's working very smoothly, and that Ukraine also has brought in our before us. So same way, it may not happen in the South Asian country. It may not happen for various reasons, because you have a belief they will come and they will not go back, and they become your permanent population. If we start up, we have same thing in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, but it may not work the way it's working. In 1970 it worked, 1971 in the Bangladesh war it worked, a large number of 10,000, more than 1 million people, Bangladeshi refugees, they enter Indian territory is there. So what you see is women, so discriminate, respect for the human rights is not confined to a territorial state. Protection of women rights is not confined to a territorial state. Everyone has a responsibility. What they are doing, they are trying to protect the right and personal liberty of each individual, and that is the reason we see, and that there. The another important part which we see the definition. So this particular occasion has provided us a different definition of human rights, gender rights, and other related or associated issues. The another important point which I see, it's a crisis where we see all three laws, three branches of human rights are, in fact, four: United Nations Charter, International Human Rights Law, International Refugee Law, and International Humanitarian Law. All are so we have in the last 2-3 days, we are seeing that violation of international human rights law, violation of the fundamental principles of the United Nations Charter. What is there? Article 2, paragraph 4 of the UN Charter, which clearly states use of force against the territorial, use of force and against the territorial integrity and political independence of a sovereign state is prohibited under international law. What is the use of force? Use of force, it's become a rule. State is not prohibited. They removed. Russia has what they have done, not prohibited, not has been brought down, and not prohibited, and their use of force is common. And that is who has to protect in such a situation when a state violates. It's a Secretary General and Security Council of the United Nations. I believe they are going to discuss this matter in the General Assembly if General Assembly passes a resolution, because Security Council has become more or less non-functional because of the veto power of the Russia. But now Security Council has decided to pass a resolution, non-binding resolution, and that will give power to the Security Council, General Assembly of the United Nations. So there may be a situation where some kind of authorization will come from the General Assembly of the United Nations. So we see the another important. So what the Secretary General, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the lady that currently the Mitchell Bachelet, she is the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and she said, she said the gross violation. She said she's alarmed, she's alarmed about the Russia military attack against federations, against Ukraine. So we are disturbed, and what highlighted what is important in this kind of situation. We have to follow, a state has to follow the first follow. If there is a conflict that's bound to happen when we leave for different regions, there are chances. But the best way is dialogue, peaceful measures to resort in to resolve international disputes. The first point we have peaceful measures to resolve international disputes. Russia should have a state gone for the international community. So somewhere we are unhappy The response of NATO and response of the, why we are unhappy? Because they are not sending their forces, but they are sending a lot of things, arms, they are sending money, they are sending, they are helping. There's no doubt. Help. So that will not change the situation. If more forces from the United States, more forces from the European NATO, if they land and they join, situation will deteriorate. It's better to isolate. It's better not to allow the situation to deteriorate. So I'm thinking Russia is gradually, in the first day it was achievement, second day it negative. They are facing challenge on their own. People are on their own streets. People are demonstrating in the Russia. So common man is saying, we don't want war. So globally, so a state can be nicer. So it's not necessary we expect that Russia, Biden should send forces. And there is a long-term implications will be there for the Russia, which internally and externally for the gross violation of human rights is there. But still there is a scope. So when human rights has to be protected, if there is a conflict, whether human rights or gender rights, because in the human, like in time of conflict, it's like, women and children are the most vulnerable sections of the society, and they are hugely affected. Their upbringing, their thinking, they're like, you just see the children of 6 or 7 years living in the bunker in the, or like, basement of the metro or railway station. What kind of suffering they are going, mental trauma they will have for the longer period. So they suffer maximum. They may not be in the battlefield. Women are also in the battlefield, but they feel about like, they how to rebuild their life and personal and also professional. So that affects their in the time of a conflict. So we have to be in this particular time, and then human rights understanding needs to be because we have concluded, there is no doubt, whether you have a provision in the constitution, principle of non-discrimination, equality, or even if you have a writings of the feminist scholars about the equality, ending of discrimination, there is a discrimination which a lot of people miss among the women sitting here in the computer, and women working in the grassroots level in the far in the Daltonganj, or like, in the or Santhal Pargana or Chhattisgarh, Bastar districts. There are a lot of, we have, unless a discriminatory practice or gender equality will not come in the society. Gender equality comes like, we empower some, but not all. What we have to empower everyone. Empowerment, like, your struggle, so your come. So empowerment or struggle is confined to a section. It has to be inclusive. Otherwise, 73 years of the independence, all the goals we see in the society, a gap which persists. Gap. We don't see any hope also. When you see your maid servant coming to your home with the young children, she will get married in the 15 years, despite POXO, despite independent thought judgment, and she will be there in the happy. The triple talaq law is there, but talaq is practiced. It's not stopped unless you go to the police station and complain. By the time you complain, you are more than the three, like, matter is settled. So complaint is also necessary. It's not automatically a mechanism. A police can also take, but somebody has to report. But police is already overburdened with the work. They don't venture and go and every house knocking. So we see there is a implementation issues remains. If gender equality has to be, and any discrimination, it has to be inclusive. Some way, it's not targeting. So I speak here, you will speak human rights, but we have to speak about the human rights. Those who don't know human rights, those who have no idea about the constitutional provision, those who are, so who will support them? We have to support them. We have to bring them shelter, food, education, and realize and making them realize the rights. There are a lot of judgments of the High Court and Supreme Court, but still hunger is common, like shelter, hunger, health issues are common, and you can understand when you see poor people near. So that inclusiveness is important in the ending of the discrimination is there. Just to quickly to sum up and finish, I think in this particular, when we see conflict is the major threat to the human rights and gender rights, the conflict, and which we have witnessed. We have not realized, we always talked about human rights in the peaceful situation. So in the conflict, so protection of human rights is also through dialogue. Dialogue is also very important. It's not the strengthening of national. So scope for engagement for us, have and have nots, rich and poor, and even the state and the common people should be there. So the engage dialogue is very important. And of course, I think, and in the another important point which I feel strengthening of the national mechanism for the protection of human rights, which Nitish has elaborately mentioned about the constitutional as well as the statutory bodies. The last, which I feel, the human rights sensitization and advocacy, what you people are doing and bringing a lot of people on the through. So young people, young students who has a future of 30 to 40 years ahead of them will have the future. So we have 20 years or maybe 15 years, but the people who have, so they will say, they may not know today. They may not know today they going to be future of judges, future of the political leaders. They say, अरे कैसे होगा 25 में है क्या होगा? But when they become 55, many of them who are the part of today, you will see after 55 or something, they are a great professor, great judge, or great administrator. With this, I end here and wish all of you very successful conference, and a lot of discussions will take place. I'm sure that it will happen. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your constant support and presence, and for being there as a godfather to knowledge teas. It's always a delight having you, and I just need to drop a message and sir is like, aa jaunga main. Even if there is anything, even if you're occupied with anything, you are always there to bless us. We are grateful to have you with us. And yes, you have highlighted some very crucial issues pertaining to theme of the conference. And I'm sure that listening to you would have been a great learning experience for the participants. But two things that I did gather was that everyone has a responsibility. Each and every one of us has a responsibility. And Mahatma Gandhi has rightly said, be the change you want to see in the world. So yes, we are having discussions, we are having debates, but I always tell the students, there are so many students, hum kya kar sakte, what can we do, how can we change things? But little steps matter, little changes matter. We started Breaking Stereotypes campaign in 2013 just to highlight the bias which is there, just to highlight the stereotypes which exist. And the campaign has reached to quite a lot of people. And if it has touched 10 people, if it has changed the perspective of even 10 people, then we are happy. There was a picture I remember which says girls can be equally good drivers, and there is a stereotype in the society that girls cannot drive properly. I remember driving last week and somebody saying, "Arey inse to nahi hoga." So I still relate to things what we did, and and this is something we will continue. We have 1 week remaining for Women's Day, and this time the theme is stop the bias, hashtag stop the bias which they're following. So these are the small steps which everyone can take, breaking stereotypes being one of them. We have also started various campaigns. We had various workshops. Our team has conducted over 200 legal aid sessions in past 3-4 years. Now, each and everyone present here, if we take some initiative, if we take any initiative and we make it a point to do something, whatever is possible for us, then I'm sure that together we'll be able to bring in that change which is required. And as sir said, empowerment for all, I think we'll be able to reach that point. And now I would like to call Nitish sir, and before our chief guest joins, he's facing some network issues, so he'll be here any moment. Nitish sir.
Thanks a lot. So it was a pleasure listening to my teacher, and it was a pleasure listening to my student. I'm somewhere in between, a kind of a filler. It's very true when you say that.
Allow me to exit, just I have to attend a meeting, another one.
Sure, sir.
So
sure,
thank you very much, and thank you all, everyone, for nice comments, and I wish you all the best to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Lordship, kindly excuse me, just I have some meetings to go. Thank you very
much. So when Mehak told about, let's take, she remembers a picture that girls cannot be a good driver. Small things have lot of other dimensions to it. When you say girls will not be able to drive, it means you will not allow them to drive. If they will not allow them to drive, they will be using public transport. Not possible that everywhere they can go through public transport. can affect their jobs and economy, can affect their possibility of helping their family in time of crisis. So a small thing is there, but it have a long impact. Not just if you see that, okay, girls are not allowed to drive, or if you have this bias that they are not good drivers, it also restricts them from driving, so which will have a impact on not just on they're not driving, but it's also have an effect on their economy, their family, their society in which they're living. So these very small steps which Mehak was telling that, okay, we did a lot of these workshops, training programs, and all every time we do something, there are some 3-4 students we approach that, okay, we are going to do this, and we always help them out in this activities of human rights. Also, one very important thing which I'll take from the lecture of my professor, Dr. Manoj Kumar Sinha, is that we always talk about human rights in times of peace. But today we have seen how beautifully he has talked about human rights in times of conflict, including international law, international humanitarian law, international refugee law, mixing it with international human rights law and human rights law. So when you see war situation or conflict situation, since ages, women has always been seen as a prize of war. So you talk 2000 years back, 500 years back, 50 years back, women have always been seen as prize of war. So if you win a war, the country belongs to you, the money belongs to you, the land belongs to you, and the most important, the woman belongs to you for that particular area on which you had won a war. Women has always been treated as a commodity when it's about conflicts. Whether you see any case anywhere, whether it's a international on conflict or non-international on conflict, if I have to mention, if you see the Rwandan genocide in Rwanda, two communities, Hutu and Tutsi. Hutu are around 90%, Tutsis are 9%. This is before the genocide stats. 90% people are majorly people who work, small work they do. They're not very politically and economically powerful people. 9% Tutsis are more economically and powerful and politically powerful people. One day, a polarization propaganda started, discrimination started happening against Tutsi, and on radio supported the logic that there are dehumanized group of people. They are not humans, they are insects, and they need to be killed. And within a time span of 6 months, half of the population of Tutsis were killed by Hutu. Many women have been raped, murdered. Women rape is used as a tool to conquer or do ethnic cleansing. Forced pregnancy was there because we know the child is always known by the name of the father. So if Hutu rapes Tutsi and if it leads to pregnancy, the next generation is Hutu, it's not Tutsi. Forced abortions happen. So we will not allow the next generation to come. So your number will decrease gradually. People were enslaved. They were treated like slaves. They were sold. They were transferred. They're killed. And we found that it's a great impact on gender rights. So whenever there is a war, I'm taking this from the lecture of Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar Sinha, that we always talk in terms of peace. It also opened my mind that why not, when next time I have to speak on gender rights, why I don't speak both the peace and the war or the conflict situation. Even if you see Indian Penal Code under definition of rape has provision that if there is some internal conflicts going on, some kind of writing situation is going on, rights are there and you are committing a rape, then the punishment will be more. Because you are not just raping a particular person, but you are taking an opportunity and you may be raping a woman, but you are inflicting a serious danger to the mind of a larger community. So we see that this structure, whether you talk in terms of, sir ended with saying that national standards or national protection regime should be a little more strong. I tell you, we are a developing nation, not just in terms of economy, but also in terms of the human rights and the laws. We are learning. We have very new laws that have come up for protection of women rights, which were not there early. Earlier, it started with, let's say, Constitution was there, fundamental rights were there, and then Sati Prevention Act came, Dowry Prohibition came, Sexual Harassment Act, Maternity Benefit Act. So there are a lot of these laws which protect gender specific, especially women. Also, when a lot of time when I give these speeches and keynote on gender rights, many people say, sir, why you don't talk about men's right or LGBT rights? I said, I may talk about men's right a bit, but I don't think I should be talking about LGBT rights because I'm not able to win this war on fighting for rights of women. Once I'm done with it, I may be going for the second stage, that is LGBT rights. When you're talking in terms of men's rights, if women respect their rights, men's rights are always protected. So if let's take you have been given a right, certain rights under Domestic Violence Act, if you are not misusing, men's rights are protected. If certain rights are given to women under Sexual Harassment Act, if you are not misusing, men's rights are protected. One of the child asked me once that yes, there are cases of rape of men. Why don't we have a gender neutral law for this? I said, do you know somebody who has been raped by a woman or by a gang of a woman? He said, no, I don't. I said, have you come across anybody who have been sexually assaulted or molested by a woman? He said, no, I don't know. I said, I know thousands of these women. Day in and day out, I'm meeting them. They have faced some kind of sexual harassment, sexual assault, molestation. If you are making this law gender neutral, then you are giving power to men. A man can approach any woman and say that, okay, see, society will always curse you, will always blame you. You come with me, otherwise I'll file a case of that you try to rape me or you raped me. No doubt you can prove later on in court that it never happened, but society will always blame you. So if you make this gender neutral, you are giving a weapon in the hand of the other gender to make it or to misuse it. I'm not saying that men have no rights, but the quantum of violations is so less, especially in case of rape. I think per 1 lakh women being raped in India, I think one man must be getting raped. I'm not saying this his rights should not be protected. There should be certain provisions which could look forward for this, but we cannot have a burden of proof like we have in women rape cases. Same burden of proof on the men's rape case. The burden of proof should be on men to prove that he was raped. If that is the case, I think it's fine. Otherwise, there is a problem. And also, if he is misusing, there should be some serious because he is creating a fear and he is misusing his position. So there should be some serious laws which should say that if you are misusing, that you will be punished or there should be certain penalties on you. So there is a long fight. There is always, whenever I start a debate on anything related to gender, there are people, okay, sir, marital rape happens. I said, yes, it do happens. It's a fact. Should we have a law for it? My opinion is okay. If your law is there, you send your husband who actually attempted or who raped you during the wedlock to jail. The end result is dissolution of your marriage. Once he is out of a jail, your marriage will not. I don't think there is any chance of marriage will continue. So why don't this is one of the grounds for divorce? Why don't you just move out this toxic relationship rather having a marital rape provisions? Then the student says, sir, no, this is right of every woman to say no at any point of time. Different set of line of arguments from students. And I sometimes I make such comments so that I listen what exactly they feel about a particular problem. Do they know in and out? Sometimes I just ask, what can you tell me whether it will amount to a physical or physical violence, and can this be a good ground for divorce? And I tell you, sometimes they're very inquisitive, but they are not thorough with their understanding of the legal provisions. So they don't know, so we don't know whether it could be a good ground for divorce or not. I said, okay, then go. And we will discuss again tomorrow that if it's a good ground for divorce, do we require marital rape provisions in India? Because see, we are different. We are not Europe. We're not marrying 5 times, 6 times in our lifetime, hardly one. Few lucky people twice. I don't know anybody who married thrice, who had triple bad luck, I say. I cannot say it here. But if you are in Europe, you have very easily, you can move in and move out and move on. Move in, move out, move on. In India, all the things, moving in may be easy, but I think moving out and moving on is really tough. So we cannot have everything very similar in terms of gender rights that are there in Europe or in US and in other developed countries, because we are a different set of people. We stay in a different set of society. We cannot make everything similar to them. We need to have our own customized way of protecting gender rights. And that's why there are a lot of mechanisms, including constitutional mechanism, writs, public interest litigation, all the quasi-judicial bodies, and criminal justice mechanism which protects human rights. So Justice Sandeep Kumar sir is here, so I'll stop here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mehek, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to welcome our chief guest for the day, Justice Sandeep Kumar, to say a few words. I welcome you, sir.
I'm sorry. Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
I am sorry that I am late and I am traveling in Assam, so I could not join. I had joined, but there was some disturbance. Again, the signal may be weak. So, thank you everyone, including Mr. Sinha. And I was not prepared for today's topic, as I have been traveling for the last 4 or 5 days. But since it was a request from Mayank, who has worked with me on behalf of Bihar University when I was a lawyer, I represented Bihar University, and Mayank has been I can only say that he has been defending Bihar University in the Patna High Court. And with all sincerity. So before beginning, I will say some general things. I will not say with regard to a particular right or gender right, all those things. What is human right and how this violation can be stopped? In my opinion, anybody who suffers anything in the hand of anybody, be it criminals, be it state, his human right is being violated. And the first step should be registration of FIR. Though the Supreme Court has said in Lalita Kumari, it has set out a list of guidelines, Lalita Kumari versus State of UP. But I can say with all confidence that most of the police officials in the country do not follow the guidelines in Lalita Kumari. Earlier, I used to feel the pinch when our clients' cases, FIRs were not being registered. And now, as a judge, I see that most of the complaints are not being registered by the police. And people go to the police station, they struggle for 10-20 days to get their cases registered, but in vain. And when now in this age of this internet age, they file their complaint to the SP, again no response. Then they come to the court under section 156(3), and that complaint, when is sent to the police, again the police keeps them pending without registering the FIR. So for violation of any right, be it human right or anybody's right, or reporting a crime is the first step. And I think our endeavor should be that we should try to get all the FIRs registered, and for that, people should be educated how to register their FIR. This mass education has to be there through all our friends who have joined. They should, like Mayank, he is there in the university. Mayank can start a legal awareness program in his college and university and form a NGO kind of thing who will get the FIRs registered. Their work should be that the first stage should be the registration of FIR. After that, investigation, conviction, arrest, all those things come later. If an FIR is not registered, people whose children are kidnapped, whose children are missing, their FIRs are not registered. And now, today's world, these telecom companies, I can give you an example of telecom companies, these big corporates, how they have violated the guidelines of the Department of Telecom. These cyber crimes are the increase in cyber crime, because I have been coming across many cases of phishing in which the account of innocent people is being, entire money from their account is being siphoned off by cyber criminals, and the FIRs are not being registered. Even if the FIRs are registered, most of the police stations, I can say that 99.99% of the police personnel don't have any knowledge of cyber crime. They will register the FIR, then they will keep the FIR pending, and there is no cyber police station. I can say that in Bihar there is only one police station looking after cyber crime in the entire state. And I think at least 10,000 crores each year is being siphoned off by cyber criminals, and there is no registration of FIR. So my suggestion to you all is that please concentrate on registration of FIR, and now this cyber crime number of cyber crime cases, it will increase and it will affect the entire family. I have come across a case where in Muzaffarpur, a person had 22 lakh, retired person had kept rupees 22 lakh in his 22 lakh or 12 lakh in his bank account for his daughter's marriage. It has been siphoned off. The police registered an FIR. Punjab National Bank official was involved. He has been arrested, but the money has not been reverted to his account, and the marriage proposal is now, the marriage is off. So see the effect of cyber crime, and most of the cyber crimes are not being registered. So we may be talking about human rights and all those things, but the first step of human right is for registration of FIR, and we as a High Court judge are trying to take steps ordering for registration of FIR, for investigation, in suo motu proceedings, in anticipatory bail matters, where some criminal has come up before the High Court, in regular bail matters for bail, we have been ordering the investigation of that particular case. At least those cases which have come to our notice, they should be investigated. Those criminals should be arrested and the money should be refunded. The human right of the unmarried girl, or the human right of the father who has lost the entire money and because of which this marriage has broken, he could not get his daughter married off. These are the basic human rights. We may be having these conferences, but you have to go to the grassroots, work in the grassroots. Then only this problem will be solved. So far as human rights of females, what I have been seeing, that 498 cases are registered by females for wives, I will say, for torture and demand of dowry. But once they register their case, they don't pursue it properly. They are interested only in getting the husband or his family arrested. No. Side by side, you have to file application for maintenance, which is not being done for 2-3 years. When those matters reach the High Court, the lawyer for the girl is opposing the prayer for anticipatory or regular bail. But when asked, what have you done about the maintenance part? He keeps mum. So my advice to all and everybody is that don't only go for filing of FIR in these 498 cases, but side by side, you file an FIR, but side by side, you also file maintenance case. And the recent Supreme Court judgment, it has given a guideline. I am forgetting the name of the parties, but it is a recent, and the maintenance is to be granted from the date of application. What was earlier happening, that some judges were granting maintenance from the date of order, some were granting maintenance from the date of filing. So now the law has been let down and the guidelines have been issued that the maintenance must be given from the date of filing of the application. But again, most of the lawyers I come across who are appearing for the girl in the High Court, when asked what is the position of the maintenance case, most of them will say, I don't know. After adjourning the case for a day or two, if I again ask, what is the situation now? They will say that they have not filed. Now I have devised a novel way. I adjourn the case for 2 weeks and advise the lawyer to file a maintenance case and come back to me. Then I direct for disposal of the maintenance case within 3 months. Because now in matrimonial matters, after Ernest Kumar, grant of anticipatory bail is a routine matter. But these things people are missing, and these seminars, I will only request you all to hold these seminars in districts, in vernacular language, local language. You educate the general public at large about their rights. Then only some goal will be achieved. I can only say that this is an international conference, but at the moment I am speaking only with regard to our own country. So sorry that I have been traveling and I could not prepare myself for this conference, but I agreed to join on the request of Mayank. And whatever you decide for the next conference, whatever topic, if Mayank invites me, I will surely join and we can have another serious discussion. For the moment, thank you all. I will keep myself logged in. I will be listening to you, but I may not be able to interact with you. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody, especially Mayank.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time and for joining. And I'm grateful that you could touch upon the practical part of it, the practical issues that we are facing. We are talking about human rights and gender justice, and cyber security is one of the prime concerns which is there today. Technology, of course, is advancing at a very fast pace, and we are not able to keep up with that. COVID has made us resort to technology, but I have also myself seen quite a lot of instances happening pertaining to cybersecurity. There is lack of awareness to some extent because we ourselves, we all are on Zoom platform and we are not aware of how to keep ourselves completely secure on these digital platforms. So we cannot expect others to be more aware. So there is a need of awareness, and of course you have highlighted the point of FIRs and lodging of FIRs. So we will try our best to hold such workshops and seminars in districts and vernacular languages. And thank you so much for joining and for your blessings today. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Swati Kaushal for the Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mehak, for the opportunity. A very warm and graceful, I think it's almost afternoon, to our most valuable honorable guests, academicians, research scholars, and students who have gathered here for the 11th International Conference on Human Rights and Gender Justice. It has almost been a decade that this conference started, so I think we are now stepping towards another decade to carry forward the legacy. As a wise man once said, feeling thankful and not expressing is just like wrapping a present and not giving it. To this, I take this opportunity to put all my gratitude into words. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. In this August gathering, I would like to thank our guest, Honorable Justice Sandeep Kumar, Professor Dr. Manoj Sinha sir, for enlightening the gathering with their inspirational thoughts. I really actually felt that a lot of good insights are given by both the guests, starting from the international arena, how, a very important topic, that is human rights during conflict, is something that we don't discuss because most of the time we've not seen the live conflict which is going on. We always talk about peace and how to prevent it. But here I think is the time when action can be taken, and Manoj sir has rightfully pointed out specific provisions, how diplomacy works in consonance and going parallelly with the international law. And also we know how international law is mostly considered as a soft law. So what is applicability? Who is to be liable? How it can be enforced in the practical sense? So all those insights were really very helpful. Another, when Justice Sandeep Kumar sir spoke about speaking and strengthening human rights from the very grassroots level, that is a very pragmatic aspect that he has actually discussed. And I can also understand, as now on the other side where he is a justice, and as he quoted that he was a lawyer also, he actually knows the intricacies and the gaps which are there in the law while implemented. So the very first step that he quoted is just filing of an FIR where the most important stakeholder, the police officials, I think really needs to be sensitized about the need of human rights and their role in strengthening it. And as Justice quoted, that we need to also go back to the grassroots level by organizing seminars in the districts and vernacular languages. So I think this is a very good insight and suggestion given, which I think we'll try to put it into action. Also, now I would like to thank and acknowledge the contributions of the organizing committee, especially our student team who have worked very hard to organize this conference. We really hope this conference, through the parallel 3 technical sessions, will bring out interesting and meaningful deliberations through paper presentations. I once again thank everyone for sparing their precious time, and we really hope that you will also enjoy the academic deliberations, which will be carried forward by the technical sessions after a short break. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Swati ma'am. We will begin with the technical sessions after a break of 10 to 15 minutes since the inaugural got delayed a little. Thank you for your patience and all the best for your presentations.
Thank you.